I met my ex-husband for coffee. He cried and said, I ruined you. Then his new wife messaged me, is he lying? And I realized I had become his secret. I wish I could say I didn't know what I was doing or caught in some emotional storm I couldn't escape. That would make this easier to tell. But the truth is worse than that. I slept with my married ex-husband, and I knew he was married. I knew there was another woman somewhere, trusting him, questioning herself, maybe lying awake beside him while his phone stayed face down on the nightstand. I knew what that felt like because I had once been her. And somehow I still became the woman on the other side of the door. My ex-husband's name is Michael. We were married for almost 7 years before I finally left. On paper, our divorce looked simple. Irreconcilable differences. That clean little phrase people use when they don't want to explain how someone can destroy you without leaving bruises. Michael never screamed at me. If I asked why he was late, he would tilt his head and say, "Do you hear yourself right now?" If I cried, he looked exhausted, like my pain was a chore he had already done too many times. My mother, Barbara, used to say, "Michael is so patient with you," and I hated how small that made me feel. My brother, Christopher, never liked him much, but even he admitted Michael was hard to argue with because he never looked angry. He just made you look unreasonable. Then one night, I found the proof. It wasn't some dramatic movie scene. I was looking for a tax document on his old tablet because he had asked me to find it. The tablet was still synced to his phone. A message popped up while I was scrolling through files. It said, "I miss your hands." I remember staring at those 4 words like my brain refused to arrange them into meaning. Then another message came in. "I hate sleeping without you." My hands went cold. I opened the thread. I know people will say I invaded his privacy, and maybe I did. But by then, I already knew. My body knew before my mind did. There were months of messages. Hotel confirmations. Photos. Little jokes I didn't understand because they belonged to a life I wasn't part of. There were screenshots of places he told me were work events. There were pictures from Orlando, from nights he said he was too tired to call. The woman wasn't just some random mistake. She knew about me. She called me your wife in some messages, like I was an inconvenience, not a person. When Michael came home, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the tablet in front of me. He froze for 1 second, just one, before his face went calm again. I said, "How long?" He took off his watch slowly and set it on the counter. "Ashley, don't do this." That was all he said at first. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I can explain." Just, "Don't do this," like I was the one about to ruin our marriage by mentioning the thing he had done. I asked again. "How long?" He rubbed his forehead and said, "You're shaking. You need to calm down before we talk." I laughed. It came out ugly. "You cheated on me, and you're telling me to calm down?" He looked at the tablet, then back at me. "You went through my private messages." That was when something inside me cracked. Because even then, even with proof glowing on the table between us, he still tried to make the problem my reaction. He said I had violated his privacy. He said I was acting unstable. He said this was exactly why he couldn't be honest with me, because I turned everything into a crisis. I remember saying, "You slept with another woman." And he said, "And you're proving my point." That sentence followed me for years. The divorce was not loud. It was worse than loud. It was quiet and humiliating. Michael told people we had grown apart. He told one friend I had become paranoid. He told his parents I needed space to work on myself. He told my mother he hoped I found peace. My mother cried because she believed him. Christopher was the one who showed up at the townhouse with boxes and said, "You don't have to convince anyone. Just pack." That was the first time I felt like someone had reached into the fog and pulled me by the hand. I moved into a small apartment in Tampa with a cracked bathroom tile, cheap curtains, and a mattress on the floor for the first 2 weeks. Christopher built my bed frame while I sat on the floor drinking coffee I couldn't taste. He didn't ask too many questions. He just tightened screws and said, "You're going to be okay. Maybe not today, but eventually." For a while, I believed him. I blocked Michael everywhere. I changed routines. I stopped going to the grocery store near our old place. I stopped visiting the coffee shop we used to like. I started therapy with Dr. Catherine because I couldn't trust my own memory anymore. I would describe something Michael had done, then immediately say, "Maybe I'm exaggerating." Dr. Catherine would look at me gently and ask, "What makes you think you need permission to call pain painful?" I hated that question because I didn't have an answer. Years passed. Not beautifully. Not like some clean healing montage. I had good weeks and terrible ones. I went on dates that went nowhere. I got better at sleeping alone. I learned to make decisions without hearing Michael's voice in my head mocking them. Then last year, he emailed me. The subject line was simple. "I owe you an apology." I didn't open it right away. I stared at it during my lunch break until my food went cold. My first instinct was fear, which made me angry because I didn't want him to still have that much power. When I finally opened it, the message was almost perfect. That should have warned me. He wrote that therapy had helped him see the damage he caused. He wrote that he had minimized, lied, deflected, and made me responsible for his choices. He wrote that he was ashamed. He said he didn't expect a reply. I read it 5 times. Then I closed my laptop. For 2 weeks, I didn't answer. I told myself silence was my answer. I told myself closure from the person who broke you is usually just another trap with softer lighting. But part of me wanted something from him. Not love. Not marriage. Not even forgiveness. I wanted him to say it to my face. I wanted him to look me in the eye and admit I hadn't imagined it. That I wasn't dramatic. That I hadn't destroyed our marriage by reacting to his betrayal. I wanted proof from the source of the wound that the wound was real. So I replied. My response was short. I read your email. I don't know what to say. He answered within 12 minutes. That should have warned me too. At first, we only emailed. Careful, polite messages. He asked how I was. I gave him answers with no real details. He told me he had remarried. Her name was Jennifer. I already knew vaguely. A mutual friend, Laura, had mentioned it once and then immediately looked like she regretted it. I had pretended not to care. But seeing Michael write my wife made my stomach twist. I hated that it affected me. I hated that some small, rotten part of me wondered what version of him she had. Did she get the soft apology version? The public version? The version who brought flowers and made everyone think she was lucky? Then he wrote, Jennifer knows I was married before, obviously, but she doesn't really know the details. I didn't want to poison my new life with the old one. The old one. That was me. I stared at that sentence for a long time. He didn't say, I didn't want to tell her how badly I treated you. He didn't say, I was ashamed. He said he didn't want to poison his new life. Like I was contamination. Like the truth about what he did to me was the dangerous thing, not him. I should have stopped there. Instead, I asked, does she know you cheated? He took longer to answer that time. No. Not everything. I'm not proud of that. Not everything. Such a cowardly phrase. A few weeks later, he asked to meet for coffee. He said he wanted to make amends properly. He said hearing my voice might help him understand the harm better. I said no. Then 3 days later, I said yes. We met at a quiet coffee shop in Orlando, far enough away from my normal life that I could pretend it didn't count. I arrived early and sat with my back to the wall like I was expecting an attack. When Michael walked in, my chest tightened before my brain caught up. He looked older. Not dramatically, but enough. A few lines near his eyes. More gray in his hair. Still handsome in that controlled way. Still wearing a careful expression, like he had rehearsed concern in a mirror. He sat across from me and said, thank you for coming. I didn't smile. Don't waste it. His face changed. Just slightly. Maybe surprise. Maybe respect. Maybe calculation. For the first 20 minutes, we talked like strangers pretending not to know each other's worst secrets. He asked about my apartment. I said it was fine. He asked about Barbara and Christopher. I said they were fine. He said he was glad I was doing well, and I almost laughed because he had no idea whether I was doing well. He only knew I wasn't crying in front of him. Then he folded his hands on the table and said, I ruined you. I stopped breathing for a second. He looked down at his coffee and said, I knew what I was doing. Not every second, maybe, but enough. I knew I was making you doubt yourself. I knew I was using your reactions against you. And I knew you weren't crazy. There it was. The sentence I had wanted for years. I thought it would set me free. I thought hearing him admit it would unlock something in my chest and let the poison out. Instead, it made me hungry. That's the only honest word for it. I wanted more. I wanted him to suffer. I wanted him to keep saying it until the old version of me, the one crying quietly in the bathroom while he slept, finally believed it. I wanted him to regret me. I wanted him to look at me like losing me had cost him something. And I wanted Jennifer to know she had not married a healed man. She had married a man who learned cleaner words. We kept talking after that. I told myself I was being careful. I told myself I was in control. It was just coffee. Then it was another coffee. Then lunch. Then sitting in his car outside a restaurant because neither of us wanted the conversation to end, or maybe because both of us knew exactly where it was heading and were pretending we didn't. He told me Jennifer was kind. He said she was stable, patient, good with people. Then he said their marriage felt lonely sometimes. I looked at him and said, don't. He blinked. Don't what? Don't start making her the woman who doesn't understand you. His jaw tightened. I said, you used that line before. He looked away. I know. That should have been enough. It should have disgusted me enough to leave. But there was something addictive about hearing him admit the pattern while still choosing me. I know how sick that sounds. I know it wasn't really choosing me. It was just Michael doing what Michael did. But trauma doesn't always respond to logic. Sometimes it responds to the exact thing that hurt you, wearing a softer voice. The first time he touched my hand, I didn't move. We were sitting in his car in the corner of a parking lot while rain tapped against the windshield. He had been talking about shame. About how he hated himself for what he had done. His fingers brushed mine, then stayed there. I looked at his hand. I thought about Jennifer. I really did. Then I left my hand where it was. The second time, he kissed me. I pulled away after a few seconds and said, "You're married." He whispered, "I know." I said, "Then go home." But I didn't say it like I meant it. The third time, I met him at a hotel near Orlando. I drove there in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt. I remember parking and sitting in the car for 10 minutes, staring at the building. I could have left. Nobody was forcing me. There was no confusion. No missing information. No excuse. I walked in anyway. Afterward, I sat on the edge of the bed and felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not love. Not even guilt at first. Just a blank, hollow quiet. Michael reached for my shoulder. "Are you okay?" I almost laughed. That question coming from him felt obscene. I said, "Don't touch me." He pulled back like I had hurt him. That was the first time I saw it clearly. Not fully, but enough. Even there, even after betraying his wife with me, he still had room to feel wounded by my tone. We saw each other 3 more times. Each time, I told myself it was the last. Each time, I believed myself for a few hours. Then he would send a message saying he couldn't stop thinking about me, or he didn't realize how much he missed being understood, or maybe we had found each other again for a reason. The last message snapped something in me. Maybe we had found each other again for a reason. I stared at those words and suddenly felt embarrassed. Not heartbroken. Embarrassed. Because there it was. The same script. He wasn't tortured. He wasn't healing. He wasn't making amends. He was turning betrayal into destiny because it sounded prettier than selfishness. I wasn't special. Jennifer wasn't special. The woman from our marriage wasn't special. We were all mirrors he held up when he needed to like himself. So I ended it. I sent one text. "You haven't changed. You just got better at apologizing." Then I blocked him. For 2 weeks, I tried to convince myself it was over. I went to work. I saw Dr. Catherine and told her some of the truth, though not all of it at first. I bought groceries. I answered my mother's calls. I pretended my skin didn't feel wrong on my body. Then Jennifer messaged me on Instagram. I saw her name and froze. Her profile picture was simple. Her smiling beside Michael at what looked like a wedding reception. His arm around her waist. Her face open and happy in a way that made me want to throw up. The message said, "I'm sorry to bother you. I think Michael is lying to me, and I don't know who else to ask." I didn't open it for almost an hour. I just stared at the preview. Part of me wanted to delete it. Part of me wanted to block her and protect what little was left of my life. Part of me hated her for existing, which was unfair and ugly and not her fault. But the biggest part of me remembered being her. I remembered finding messages. I remembered Michael telling me I was unstable. I remembered standing in my kitchen with proof in my hands while he made me feel guilty for discovering it. So I answered. I wrote, "What do you know?" She replied quickly, like she had been sitting there with the phone in her hand. She said she found hotel charges. Deleted texts. A receipt from a coffee shop in Orlando on a day he said he was working late. She said when she confronted him, he told her she was being paranoid. He told her his first marriage fell apart because I was jealous and impossible to reassure. I felt cold all over. Not surprised. Worse than surprised. Confirmed. I asked, "Did he say I was unstable?" She wrote, "Yes." One word, and I was back in that kitchen. Same man. Same script. New woman. I could have lied. I could have told her nothing happened. I could have protected myself and let Michael explain it away. Honestly, there is a version of me that wanted to. Not because I cared about him, but because telling her meant admitting what I had done. Instead, I told her the truth. Not perfectly. Maybe not gently enough. I wrote that yes, he had been seeing me. Yes, we had met in Orlando. Yes, it became physical. I told her I was sorry, even though I knew sorry was useless. I told her she didn't deserve it. I told her if he was making her feel crazy, she wasn't. Then I added the thing I wish someone had told me years ago. He will try to make your reaction the problem. Don't let him. She didn't answer. An hour passed. Then 2. Then the whole night. The next day, she wrote, "I hate you, but thank you." I cried when I read it. Not because she hated me. She should hate me. I cried because it was the most honest thing anyone had said in the whole mess. Michael started calling from unknown numbers that evening. I didn't answer. He emailed me from a new address and called me vindictive, broken, obsessed, cruel. He said I had destroyed his marriage because I couldn't stand that he moved on. He said I seduced him to punish him. He said Jennifer was innocent and I had no right to hurt her. That one made me laugh in the worst way. He only cared about Jennifer being innocent when her pain could be used against me. Laura called 2 days later. Her voice was tense. She said Michael had been telling people I came back into his life on purpose to ruin him. She didn't know what to believe, and honestly, I couldn't blame her. When I told her the truth, she went quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Ashley, what you did to Jennifer was awful." I said, "I know." She said, but I also believe he knew exactly how to pull you back in. I didn't answer because both things were true, and I hated that. Jennifer left Michael the following week. At least temporarily. Laura told me she went to stay with her sister Nancy in Orlando. I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if she filed anything. I don't know if she went back. I don't ask. I don't think I have the right. Michael tried one last email. It was shorter than the others. You got what you wanted. I hope it was worth it. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Was it worth it? That question has been living in me ever since. Because part of me wants to say no. No, it wasn't worth becoming someone else's trauma. No, it wasn't worth giving Jennifer the same sick feeling I once had. No, it wasn't worth walking back into the fire just to prove it could still burn me. But another part of me, the part I'm ashamed of, feels calm. Not proud. Not happy. Calm. For the first time, Michael didn't get to control the story. He didn't get to turn me into the crazy ex-wife and Jennifer into the paranoid wife while he stood between us, misunderstood and innocent. He didn't get to rebrand betrayal as confusion. He didn't get to hide behind soft words and therapy language and that wounded look he used whenever accountability came too close. The truth reached her. Late, yes. Painfully, yes. Through me, which makes it uglier. But it reached her. I told Dr. Catherine everything after that. The affair. The messages. The hotel. Jennifer. All of it. I expected her to look disappointed, and maybe she was, but she didn't punish me with her face. She said, revenge can feel like closure because it gives pain somewhere to go. But it doesn't heal the place it came from. I hated hearing that because it was true. I don't miss Michael. That's the strangest part. I don't want him back. I don't sit around imagining some alternate life where he chooses me and we become better people. I think, deep down, I wanted to stand in front of him one more time and not be the powerless one. But power gained by hurting someone else doesn't feel clean. It feels like holding a knife by the blade. My mother knows only part of it. Christopher knows more. He didn't yell when I told him. He just sat beside me on my couch for a while and said, I love you, but don't let him turn you into evidence for his story. That stayed with me. Because that is what Michael wanted. He wanted my worst moment to erase all of his. He wanted to point at me and say, see? She was always like this. Maybe some people will believe him. Maybe some people should. I did a terrible thing. Jennifer was not responsible for what Michael did to me, and I still helped him hurt her. I can say he manipulated me, and that might be partly true. I can say I was damaged, and that is true too. But I was not unconscious. I was not innocent. I made choices. I have to live with that. I think about Jennifer sometimes. I imagine her at Nancy's house, sitting on a guest bed with a suitcase open on the floor, reading my messages over and over until the words stop feeling real. I imagine her wondering what parts of her marriage were fake. I imagine her hearing Michael's explanations and trying to separate truth from performance. I hope she leaves him. I hope she heals faster than I did. I hope she never feels obligated to forgive me just because I eventually told the truth. As for Michael, the last thing I heard was that he moved into a short-term rental and told everyone he needed space from toxic women. That almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly him. Even surrounded by wreckage he caused, he still found a way to stand in the middle and call himself the victim. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore. I don't check his social media. I don't ask Laura for updates. I blocked every email address he used. I changed my locks, not because I thought he would show up, but because I needed one physical reminder that he no longer had access to my life. Sometimes calm victory is not dramatic. Sometimes it's sleeping through the night. Sometimes it's drinking coffee on a quiet morning and realizing you haven't wondered what he thinks. Sometimes it's admitting you did something wrong without letting the person who trained you to hate yourself use that wrong thing as proof you deserved everything. I don't know where that leaves me. I am not the hero of this story. I know that. I'm not even sure I'm the victim anymore, at least not only the victim. I was hurt and then I helped hurt someone else. I exposed the truth, but only after becoming part of the lie. That is the part one can't make neat. So I guess I'm asking because I still don't fully trust my own judgment. Am I the villain for sleeping with my married ex-husband, or did telling his wife the truth finally break the pattern he kept using on both of us?